Hey, Cal, you made this shit?
2, 1, action. Yes, sir. What's good, y'all? Welcome back to the Millionaire Mansion podcast. We got another edition of Millionaire Mac Talks. And at the Millionaire Mac Club, we believe millionaire is defined by the mindset, not monetary status. And we're tapping in to our unlimited potential, man. Today, I have a very special guest, a friend I met from my first college, Lewis and Clark. And man, like from a distance, I was just always peeping his moves, knowing that he was gonna do big things, staying in like a close contact to where I can still hit him up, not as cordial as we should be, to be honest. But today we got my main man, Ramez Attia. Ramez, how you doing, bro? How you doing? Let them know who you are. What's up, man?
I'm doing good, man. Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Appreciate you coming on.
Yeah. Was born and raised Cairo, Egypt. Moved to the US freshman year of high school in California. And I then got recruited to play tennis at Lewis and Clark. And that's where I went. Graduated last May. And I'm doing my master's in entrepreneurship right now at Babson College in Massachusetts.
Right. So the school that you're at, it's like, is it all entrepreneurship or not?
It's
Like,
it's a number one program for entrepreneurship
right.
in the country or something like that, in the world, something like that. But
Right, so I've heard something crazy about that school.
yeah, they're very focused on entrepreneurship, especially the accelerated masters I'm doing.
Mhm.
It's literally only 1 year, and it's all focused on entrepreneurial leadership. So it's very intense, but I'll have my master's in a year, which is crazy.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's so crazy. Wait, so dang, wait. Oh, I'm so excited to tap into that. But before we go into that, so tell me about the transition from changing countries, because I changed states and that was a big transition, but a whole country, you're just in high school. Like, tell me about that change.
I mean, yeah, it was definitely a big change. There was a lot of political turmoil going on in Egypt, and it wasn't really safe anymore to live there. Um, so my parents decided that we should move. We were fortunate enough to be able to move, and we have family in California, which made it a little bit easier.
Mhm.
But my father never moved with us, so that on its own presented a lot of challenges for me growing up, especially because I can't go back to Egypt, and he couldn't travel very much in the beginning.
Mhm.
Uh, More so now, I see him probably like once a year for a few weeks.
Right.
But in the beginning, I have probably like haven't seen him. When I moved in 2013, first time I saw him was like November 2014 or something like that. So it's been like 2 years. But transition wise, you get used to it. We're as people, we tend to, if you put your mind to it, you can adapt really quickly to any environment. And especially when you don't have a choice. I moved to the US for a purpose, to get my education, try to, like, my parents made a lot of sacrifices. So that for me was huge in terms of like, I have to, capitalize on that and, try to make it the best of it. And I think I'm doing pretty well, capitalizing on that. But, transition wise, it took some getting used to for sure. But like I said, if you put your mind to something, I think there's very little that can stop you for sure.
Bro, that's all bro. That's really what I'm realizing is like all success is being so intentional and so focused on what you're doing. You understand that you're gonna run into controversy, you're gonna run into problems, but it's a matter of being a problem solver. Like, yeah, it's fine. Like, the problems are coming, but a lot of people will just find the problem, call out the problem but not look for the solution. You see what I'm saying? So like, I did a year at LC, and I know like liberal arts is really, really into critical thinking, problem solving, thinking through different situations. And it seems like you've been exposed to those skills even before LC. So what are some of the skills and lessons that you picked up from the 4 years you did there?
I mean, I think the number one thing that I always try to remember is, don't let anybody tell you what you can and cannot do, because at the end of the day, it's true, it's sad truth, but you don't necessarily always know who has your best interest at heart. So you need to focus on yourself and build, like, you will meet people along the way that you will trust 100%, and they will always have your back. But until then, you need to decide for yourself what you can and cannot do. And there's very little, again, back to what I was saying in the beginning, there's very little you put in your mind to that you won't achieve. So I think liberal arts in general exposes you to so many different things and so many different environments that it teaches you, again, to adapt really quickly, and it teaches you to think on your feet, versus a technical school where you're going to get a spreadsheet, or I mean, I'm dumbing it down for sure, but like technical school where you're going to get a process and you're going to follow that process to the letter, and you know what I mean? So that was definitely big, just thinking on your feet, because at the end of the day, when you're done with college, when you get a job or start a business, or even in life with relationships and stuff, like, you're always gonna have to, there's no by the book, you know what I mean? Like, there's always, you learn the theories, but then you can't apply them to the real world because there's so many constraints, you know what I mean?
Exactly, bro. That's facts. That's another thing that I feel like I catch myself doing it, and like I feel like a majority of the people do it. Like you touched on, is like we'll try to live by theory. We'll try to live through somebody else's experience. Somebody else told me that, oh, this is how this is gonna go, and then you're not even being exposed to the situation in a way that you can actually learn and gain perspective on your own. You see what I'm saying? So, bro, I remember at LC, like you, Matt, like y'all were always up to something. Like y'all were always up to something, and you guys were moving with a purpose. And honestly, like I won't even lie, when I went into LC, like, bro, I didn't realize like the atmosphere and the tools that I was exposed to. Cause like I genuinely, I won't even lie. Like I went in there like, okay, bet I'm just here to hoop. Like, so that's all I was focused on hoop, focus on chasing girls. And I passed my classes, obviously did well in school, but I wasn't tapped into the entrepreneur club, wasn't tapped in to the career center, all that good stuff. But I know you and Matt were always progressing yourself, using that time intentionally. So where'd you get that discipline? How'd you build that discipline to where, because don't get me wrong, y'all were still out having fun and stuff too. Cause like, man, I just remember like on weekends, you and Matt were like the people I want to kick it with. You see what I'm saying? So like, where'd you get that discipline instilled? Like, have you always had it, or did you build it, or is it something you're continually working on, or what?
So it's a lot of answers to that question, but I'll tell you one part of the answer is what I was telling you earlier about, like, you find a support network that you can trust, and Matt and I, we just push each other, man. We just, ever since we met each other sophomore year of college, we found a lot of interests we had in common. We grew really good friends, and we pushed the shit out of each other. We held each other accountable every single day. And, if we wanted to go out to this party, we had to do that first. And, we had to, we started a business together. So you need to find someone that you can trust, someone that that pushes you as much as you push them, and you just look like you succeed with each other, man. It's, I mean, the beauty of it all, you know, and what we realized is when you have little successes, you want to celebrate those, and celebrating those alone is not very tasteful, you know. So having Matt during that time, and still today, we're both doing the same masters. We learn to push each other, and we learn to celebrate the little steps we make, and that's just what makes everything, you know, so much more, like, have way more purpose, you know, have way more meaning.
It's bigger than you.
Yeah, it's definitely bigger than us, and I'll talk about the startup we had in a minute whenever we get to it, but you learn it. You learn how to, you know, grind. I learned it because my parents, they sacrificed a lot making me or moving to the US, especially without my father.
Right.
You know, a lot of people are very quick to judge. You know, they don't know the story behind you. Right. You know, people looked at me in college and saw this like confident, cocky person that had everything figured out. They don't know my history. You know, they don't know that I left my home country when I was 13. I left a parent when I was 13. I moved to a very small 1-bedroom apartment in California because we couldn't afford anything else, and there was 4 of us. You know, people don't know that stuff, and they don't need to know that stuff, as long as you know that that won't matter. Like, their opinion about you doesn't matter. As long as you stay focused on your path, and you find people that actually know you for who you are, like Matt for me, for example, and that push you to do, like, to be the best version of yourself. That's how you're going to succeed. Just focus on yourself.
That's fact. Like, that's such a bar, bro. That. Oh my God. You're hitting on so many lessons that I'm just now becoming conscious of, that have honestly always been around me, but I'm now just being like intentional with them. Like, you are who you hang around. Like, there's no way around it, bro. Like, you are who you hang around. And if you're around somebody that, not saying that there's like pedestals or you're a better human, this, that, and the third, but if you're on an intentional grind and you're around somebody that's just kind of going through life like then it's hurting you more than it's helping them. Like, if they were smart, they'd be picking up on your tendencies, but it's honestly hurting you more than you're helping them. So, like, I don't know. I feel like, bro, just like reading your persona, reading your grind, reading your success, seeing your success that you're generating at such a young age, I can just tell, like, you're comfortable with being not the best person in the room, but when you are the best person in the room, you're going to lead the troops. You see what I'm saying? So talk about, like, because I know for sure in Entrepreneur Club and at LC, there's some atmospheres that you're talking about that you're exposed to so many different uncomfortable situations that you know are going to be progressive. So, like, what are some of those situations like? Or are there any like stories that you can think of off the top that are like, oh yeah, that was a time I was really uncomfortable, but I progressed from it?
I mean, that's a good point. I mean, off the top of my head, I couldn't tell you. I mean, you hear stories about, like, you hear rumors all the time about yourself wherever you are. You have to be comfortable hearing that stuff and knowing who you are, because at the end of the day, you know what happened and what didn't happen. But like a lot of times, people think I'm cold and calculating and arrogant. You know, that's the stuff I hear all the time, because, you know, I keep to myself. I'm a very quiet person. I, you know, let my actions do the talking for me. I learned that very early on playing tennis. It's a single sport, and there's no reason for you to do anything except try to win. And when you try to win, you just let the winning speak for you. You know what I mean? So, so you have to be comfortable in like hearing that stuff about you. If you let that stuff get to you, you won't ever move forward. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's just something. And another thing you have to be comfortable with is being vulnerable. Like I probably like 3-4 years ago, I couldn't ever like talk about my background or talk about where I came from or talk about, you know, my transition moving here or talk about how I lived in high school. But you know what? You have to own your story. You know? So and if you're not comfortable with your own story, nobody else will be comfortable with it, you know? So you have to find a way to accept that, you know, you live a unique path and nobody else lives that life. And it's what you do with it that matters. And I'll give you an example, a very, very famous example about like a guy, a family that the father is an alcoholic and he has 2 sons. One of them becomes an alcoholic. One of them never drinks alcohol again. Mm-hmm. You choose your own path. You know, they were in the same environment. One of them decided to do better and the other one decided to follow in the same environment. Right. Back to your point about who you hang out with. If you realize that the environment you're in is toxic or the environment you're in is not good for you, it's not good for your success, you leave that environment and find something else, right? And it's never too late, ever. You know, I started really getting my shit together probably end of sophomore year of college. And that's where things started changing very fast.
Do you remember what that wake up call was that sophomore year?
I know what was dragging me down was my parents' divorce was that year, but you just wake up one day and you're like, you know what, I've had enough of this. You know, I've had enough of dragging myself down. I've had enough of pitying myself, you know, feeling bad for myself. Nobody's gonna, come and tell you it's gonna be okay. No, dude, this is life. Like you're gonna have to take responsibility for your actions. You know, I was going down a pretty bad path until sophomore year of college, and my grades were mediocre and didn't really do anything. And that summer I started, I got an internship. I started working when I was 16, but that summer I actually started getting corporate jobs. I tried to get like my resume, work on it. But to tell you the truth, I don't remember what the trigger was. Right. I just one day woke up and said enough is enough. A lot of times I would tell you that you will come to that realization. Oftentimes people around you, if you surround yourself with good enough people, they will help you come out of any slump that you're in. But at the end of the day, like Michael Jordan, you have to motivate yourself. Thanks. You have to get that, fire from within. He created I'm sorry for swearing. He created scenarios.
You can.
He created scenarios in his head to play better in a game. Like it doesn't get more inner than that. You know what I mean? Like, and he's probably the greatest example I can think of you are the one that has to motivate. Like you have to motivate yourself to get out of any situation you're in. Otherwise it won't work. Because external motivation, so if you piss me off and that's the reason why I'm going to score 40 on you or whatever, that's not going to happen every game. Exactly. Like I'm not going to play against you every single game and you're not going to piss me off every single game. Right. But if I get the motivation from inside, doesn't matter who I'm playing against. It doesn't matter what day it is. It doesn't matter. Nothing else matters because that motivation from inside is just taking over everything. You know what I mean? So just the realization. And I think, looking at you and what you're doing right now, I can tell that you had that realization.
Oh, yeah.
Especially since Lewis and Clark days, like we've known each other from back then, and like you had your toes in the water, but you weren't fully committed yet. You know what I mean? But like, seeing you right now, like I can tell you're committed. I can tell you're doing something, and you found the purpose. So
Appreciate that.
it's literally, I mean, I would ask you, like, what changed?
Shoot, bro. Oh, that's a good question. No, it's actually crazy because my turning point was like a year ago. Like where I was actually like solid and committed was like a year ago, because I've always been the type of person where like I'd I'd intrinsically motivate myself, and then it'd wear off, and then I'm just kind of like mediocre, and then but like when I had those glimpses of like greatness or like tapping into like my full potential, like I wouldn't know how to control it. You know what I mean? Like it would just happen. But then I started realizing like through COVID, like I'm like, bro, like so much time is being wasted. Like so much time is being wasted. And like I think the thing that had me realize that I needed to go was once I was realizing like the video games that I was playing, the movies that I was watching, like 3 days later, I can't remember what happened in those hours that I was spending. You see what I'm saying? Then I'm starting to think, I'm like, what am I building? Like genuinely, like what am I building? What's my legacy gonna be? So then I remember like about a year ago, um, basketball's on and off because of COVID. And really, like I told you earlier, like I identified myself as like, oh, I'm a basketball player. And that's all I was. So then I started thinking, I'm like, bro, I'm not a one-dimensional athlete. Like I'm more than this. So what more is there to it? So then I started reading, started listening to podcasts. And I won't even lie to you. I honestly didn't know where I was going with it. And I have an idea, but it's all over the place, right? Like I'm still trying to fully grasp it, but like really just starting and like realizing that I can be more. And like you touched on it earlier, that you control your own destiny, you control your own motivation. Once I realized that, bro, I was like, oh yeah, there's no going back. Like there's no going back to being a consumer 24/7. Like what am I doing consuming, watching somebody else live their dream? Congrats for them, but I gotta go win with somebody else. Like you said, like I'm trying to build something for somebody else, with somebody else, and for myself, really. But that leads me to like ask you like, so you said before we hopped on the pod, you and Matt started the business about a year ago. So that puts you graduated last year, right?
Yeah, we graduated in May.
Graduated in May. Okay. So, right. So, boom, a year. So, about 2 years out of your like awakening of like, all right, let me lock in and become the best Ramez. I'm sure you had other ventures in between that time or other things going. Like you said, you were building your resume, but then you started that startup. So, walk us through that like startup story, the trials and tribulations, like anything that you think is important about that startup. Let them know what it is and all that good stuff.
Yeah, I think I always, COVID times, I always forget. It started 2020, January 2020, so it's about a year and 10 months now.
It's so hard keeping track. Like
Yeah.
all the days felt the same.
So yeah, we started January 2020 in Lewis and Clark, actually, at Winterim.
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah. So we won the Winterim competition, which was our first taste of winning in the startup world. We won like $500, and we qualified to a statewide pitch competition.
Right. Wait. Before you keep going, let them know like what went.
Oh yeah. So we created a car breathalyzer device that would be connected to your keychain, and it communicates with a car's ignition system. So the whole idea is it would prevent drunk driving, because all the tools that are out there right now, whether it's the keychain breathalyzers that you can buy off of Amazon or the state mandated interlock devices that you get after a DUI,
Right.
all have are not fail safe.
Mm.
So is that the right word? I don't know if it's the right word. So they're not fail proof, I would say.
Oh,
Not
right.
fail proof.
Right.
Yeah. So like the interlock device, for example, first of all, it's mandated only after you get a DUI.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no preventative measure whatsoever. They're waiting until you actually drive drunk, get pulled over, and then they sentence you to a breathalyzer. So in between that time, you can have an accident and die. You can have an accident and kill someone. You can have an accident and injure yourself or someone. And in all these scenarios, you didn't get pulled over.
Mm.
So if you get in an accident and you're fine, you're gonna drive drunk again. You still didn't get pulled over. So there's no preventative measure whatsoever.
Right.
Other problem is interlock devices that you get after DUI.
Mm-hmm.
We talked to Mothers Against Drunk Driving, which is the biggest organization that advocates against drunk driving. And they told us stories about parents letting their 7 or 6-year-old kids breathe into the device to start the car.
Oh.
It's not fail proof.
Oh.
Now you're putting yourself and your child at risk.
And you're teaching them that bad habit of cutting corners.
Oh, it's a whole mess. So we created a breathalyzer device. It connects to the car's ignition system, and it's a consumer device, so it's a preventative measure. And if you blow it into the device and you fail the blood alcohol test, it will block the ignition from starting.
Mm.
The fail proof comes from the facial recognition software.
Oh, that's hard.
So we're in the prototyping stage right now. So we're raising capital to finish the prototype. But so the facial recognition makes, if I'm drunk and it's my device, nobody else can blow into it.
Mm-hmm.
And so we covered all the loopholes that we found with the other devices, and that's how our journey started, man. Right. We qualified for the pitch competition. It's called Invent Oregon. In September of 2020, we pitched. Mm-hmm. So like almost
just past a year.
Yeah. And we won the whole competition against way bigger schools like Oregon Health and Science University, University of Oregon, massive schools that we went up against with massive budgets. And all we had was $500. So we made the proof of concept in a garage. And we hustled and we found some engineers that were willing to help us. And we paid them all the money that we have, and we made it happen. Then we presented and we won the whole competition, got the winning prize. The first place was $10,000. We used that money right back into the business. So we incorporated the business, we hired a lawyer, got all the papers in check, and now we're in the prototyping stage trying to finish that. But we're raising money right now.
Right.
So it's been almost 2 years now. It's crazy.
That is so, bro. That's the crazy thing, because like I'm in the atmosphere you guys are in, watching from afar, knowing you guys are going crazy, but I didn't know it was this deep. I didn't know. Like I genuinely didn't know. That is crazy, bro. Oh my God. I knew y'all were gonna be up to something crazy. Like, so tell me what's the next few action steps, or where do you think it'll be in the near future? And where do you want to take it, like big picture? Where do y'all want to take it big picture?
Yeah. So, well, Matt and I, we both know that we're not experts So, we got to learn, like, we know a little bit, and we've been learning at Lewis and Clark, and that's why we applied to Babson. It's called MSCL, a Master's in entrepreneurial leadership, and it's supposed to be a really good program for startups, really good program to, learn as an entrepreneur. We both got in, which was insane.
Right.
Because we were very anxious about that, because we wanted to take the business to Babson and keep going together. And thank God it happened. But next steps, we're trying to raise our friends and family round right now. We're talking to investors. It's basically all our meetings are investors right now. So, but big picture, when we won the Invent Oregon competition, it became so real to us that, this is way bigger than us. This is not just about creating a successful business. This is about saving lives.
Lives on me.
And when we realize that this is what we're doing, it's just like our whole mentality changed. It's just like we can't afford to slack off anymore. Right. It's not just like, oh, it's a good story that you can, say in an job interview. No, right. We committed to this by incorporating the company. We committed to seeing this through.
Right.
So big picture is eliminating drunk driving. That's the goal. And I can give you statistics until I bore you to death, but there's 30 people that die every single day from drunk driving in the US alone. Whoa. And I tell you something crazy. That number only went up in COVID.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Bro, what? When you said 30 and then didn't finish yet, I thought you were about to say like a week, a day. A day. That's so, bro. Wow.
Yeah. Wow. So it's just, it just became way bigger than just two people trying to start a business and make a quick buck.
Right.
It's not about that at all. This is, it's a blessing and a curse. In a way, we found our purpose. A curse in a way that it's really, really hard. Because it's a very capital intensive business. Not a lot of people are willing to listen because it requires so much money. And it might not be a sexy product or something that will make 20x return for an investor. So it's a grind. But because we realize that we have to see this through, nothing will stop us. I can't think of anything that will probably, stop us along the way. We're just and here's the other thing, whether we succeed or fail, we will feel good about doing our best along the way, because when you put 100%, it's all about the process. It's all about the journey, man. It's not about the end result. So, end result, a little bit of luck, a little bit of mix and match of everything will get you what you need, but you will sleep good at night knowing that, we didn't slack off. You'll sleep good at night knowing that we didn't put something else above, grinding this out. So that's what we're doing right now. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of long hours. It's a lot of sleepless nights, but it's great, man. Like, it's probably one of the best things that we've ever done in our lives. And I just can't wait to see what happens. It's just crazy.
I can't wait to see it manifest. And like, bro, like already I'm getting like secondhand, I don't even know. I can't even think of the proper word, bro. Like, I don't know. Like, I feel like I'm achieving it with you from watching. Like, that's how powerful what y'all are doing is. You see what I'm saying? Like, I haven't even been like, oh, hey, how's the business? Like, I haven't heard about what you guys are doing in 3 years, and like I'm like secondhand getting like holy, like that is something powerful. You see what I mean? So that's crazy. That's great stuff. That's really inspiring. And bro, like you hit on such a key point. Like the when you give your 100, like you can sleep at night and you can sleep well at night. Like I was listening to, I don't know if you know who Jay Shetty is, but he was talking on his podcast talking about when he came out with his book, like he was so focused on the input that he knew the output would take care of itself. And even if it didn't, like he gave so much to the input, like he's gonna get a return on that effort, whether it's a lesson, whether it's the goal manifesting to exactly what it was gonna be. But like since he went so hard and was so intentional on the things that he can control, he knew that like that's what was supposed to happen. Whatever is about to happen, that's what was supposed to happen. So I think that's awesome, bro. For your like investor meetings, because what are you, 22, 21?
23 in like a
23?
couple weeks.
Right, you're about to be 23. I know, like those investors, those are definitely some higher caliber people and some older people, I'm assuming. Correct me if I'm wrong. Like, bro, what is it like being in that atmosphere, being on these Zooms, being in person meetings? 23, like, yo, like I need some big bucks. I'm trying to change the world. Like, bro, you have to be like a certain level of good cuckoo in your mind to be doing that shit. You see what I mean? Like, so what is that like, bro?
Well, one thing that I would definitely need to keep in mind is like you have to speak their language. You know what I mean? Like if you're gonna show up to an investor meeting and you know that person, I mean, I'm just stereotyping right now, but like 60s white male, you know, you have to show up with a suit. You have to show up with your hair fucking, you know, looking good, you know, not scruffy or suit and tie, you know, looking clean. So you have to know your audience pretty well. This is the most important thing in any pitch or presentation, or it doesn't matter who you're talking to. You need to know who you're talking to, and you need to adapt to that person because people like similarities.
Right.
People like people that are the same.
Mm-hmm.
It's just human nature. It's just psychology. Mm-hmm. So if you show up in jeans and shorts and, you know, a t-shirt and, hey, yo, what's up? Talk like that. There's no way he's going to give you money.
Right.
But if you show up, suit and tie, you know, all dressed up, all clean, talk respectfully, listen, try to associate with their experiences. Let them talk. People love to talk about themselves, by the way.
Love to talk about themselves.
Let them talk about themselves. Try to see that, you know, if you have similarities, you know, touch on that. And just also you need to prepare. You need to prepare. You need to know your pitch inside out. You need to know exactly what you're gonna do and what you're gonna say. You can't leave anything to chance in meetings like this.
Right.
You know, and just go for it. There's no, you know your stuff more than anybody. You know your you know your stuff more than anybody else. So you need to be confident in yourself and just deliver, because I think when Bill Gates was pitching Microsoft, he got like over 1,000 no's before he got a yes,
right.
Something like that. You need to be persistent. Like we talked to probably over 10 investors so far, and we haven't gotten a yes yet. But we're still going because someone somewhere is going to say yes, you know, but we just need to, it's a numbers game too. Like you need to keep going. You need to not let the no's discourage you. You know, I think Mark Cuban said once, every no gets me closer to a yes.
Right.
So if you hear a no, you know what? Just be like, well, what did you like? What did you not like?
Right.
You know, get feedback. Try to get,
Uh,
if you're gonna get a no, try to get as much out of the person as you can. You know,
Right.
oh, do you have another person I could pitch to? Someone who's, you know, more into the consumer market or whatever it is, right? Just try to get something out of every meeting. And yeah, that's how you that's just, yeah.
Bro, you just put me on so much game. Like you just put me on so much game. This is crazy because like it's so dope because you're doing the things that I'm progressing myself through. Like aligning myself to put myself in the position to be able to be in those investor meetings, be 2 years deep with my entrepreneurship, with my business, you know. So like that stuff is really inspiring. This is so crazy. This is so dope. All right. So I got two last questions. And they might be thinkers. Every time I have people on, some of them can't answer, but some of them answer quick. So my first question, what's the last thing you learned?
Last thing I learned.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
See, this is the thinker.
yeah, no,
This
so
is the
I
thinker.
wouldn't I wouldn't necessarily say it's the last thing I learned, but it's the last thing I saw happening in action. And it just like made me realize, you know, I learned it before, but you know, it's easier, you know, the saying easier said than done.
Right.
So you learn a lot of stuff and you get a lot of wisdom, but before you see it actually happening, you're like skeptical a little bit, you know. Is it actually like this? But trust the process, you know. I'm a big believer of everything happens for a reason.
Yeah, me too.
And you just gotta have faith, because if it's not meant to be today, it's meant to be tomorrow, you know. Because but you gotta keep your faith. You gotta keep your head up. You gotta keep going. If it's a no today from an investor, if it's not the right person that you live with, or it's not the right, it's for a reason, you know. And until that reason comes to light, you won't understand why at the time. But until that happens, until that whatever it is happens, you know, you will think back and be like, you know, way back when that investor said no, yeah, he just got arrested for whatever. For example, no, it's a very drastic example, but you can't see, like, you're living your own story right now, but you can't see the ending. You can't see the ending of a chapter. You can't see the ending of, you can't see, nobody can see the future, right? But you just gotta live day by day. And you will realize that it's not meant to be today. Again, if it's not meant to be today, it's meant to be some other time, you know. So
that's the pod title right there. That's the pod title right there. If it's not meant to be today, it might be some other. That's hard. That's so hard, bro. That's crazy. I love that. I love that. My last, bro. Whoa. See, you're just dropping gems, bro. I appreciate it, for real. All right, my last question. My last question, for real. You already just gave a beastie quote, but what's one quote or your favorite quote that you live by? You probably have already mentioned it.
actually, I haven't.
Oh, you haven't?
Yeah, no. My favorite quote is, try and fail, but don't fail to try.
Try and fail, but don't fail.
Yeah, because, you know, that's, again, you with the podcast, me with the startup, you know, it might not succeed, but you did it. You know what I mean? Right. You will never wonder what if, and you don't ever want to wonder what if in life.
That's a killer right there.
Yeah, because you can't recover from that. You know, what if I didn't go live abroad for 6 months? Well, shit, you're never gonna find out now. But what if I didn't start a podcast? What if I didn't start a business? What if I didn't play basketball? What if I didn't play tennis? What if I didn't move to the US? You know, it's what if is poison.
What if
And
poison?
you gotta stay away from that. So do what you like, try and fail. There's no problem in failing. Failing is just like gets you one step closer to success. But never stop yourself from doing something because you're afraid, or never stop yourself from doing something because other people told you not to do it. Never stop yourself from doing something because, you know, someone next to you tried and failed. Again, back to what I said in the beginning, you make your own path. You have your own path. Nobody can walk in your shoes. People can try. People can tell you what to do, but you should never listen. You know, just live your own life, and you'll do, like, strive for greatness, and you'll achieve it. So, yeah.
You just drop gems on gems on gems. This is greatly appreciated, bro. This is greatly appreciated, for real. Man, so that about wraps up everything. Any closing remarks, any last pointers that you want to give the people that's been on your mental, or they need to hear it? Anything else?
Not necessarily pointers, but something that I try to remind myself every day is, you know, never judge a book by its cover. You know, like, words is one thing you can never take back. You know, this person, you might say something to them and you have no idea the magnitude of what your word can do to them, and you never know what they're going through at the time. You know, that, like, just always remember, like, you don't know the full story about anybody, and you gotta be careful what you say. You know, it might be a joke, might be silly, but you have no idea what that one little sentence. Yeah. Yeah, you can't judge a book by its cover, because you never know what someone's going through. You never know what day someone's having, and words is something you can never take back.
Right.
You know, my grandmother taught me this, actually. Is like, if you say something, that effect is gonna, you know, be there forever. You know, so you gotta. I'm a person that chooses their words very carefully because of that. I'm more of a listener than a speaker or a talker, because, you know, I know firsthand what a word can do to you. I know firsthand where, you know, someone doesn't know the full story and still judges you. Like, so that's something that I have to, it's always on the top of my mind, is, you know, just be mindful of the people around you. Be mindful of what people might be going through. Be mindful of, you know, the little things. It could be like, hey man, you're looking chunky today, or something. Something so small, bro. Something so small.
You don't
know,
even
could
know
be,
what's going on in
exactly. Like, this person could be starving themselves, and just, you never know. And this is something that not enough people pay attention to. And we're just so easy to judge. We're so easy to jump to conclusions. We're so easy to roast people. We're so easy to, you know, oh, it's all fun and jokes. Oh no, he's fine. You know, he's fine. Like, he can take it. Well, maybe, but also maybe not. You know, so
more times it's not really.
More times it's not. More times it's not. I mean, I mean, some people can handle it. You know, I from my background, at least, like, I've been through some, and we can talk about this off the podcast, but like, I've lived through some shit, you know. That's why, like, I have a very thick skin. Like, so if someone says something about me, like, I'll be fine. But someone else, maybe not, you know. So you gotta always remember that, like, what you don't like being done to you, you cannot do to someone else. And a lot of people are very hypocritical about that because, you know, they don't allow anybody to do something to them, but, you know, they're out there doing it to everybody else.
Nice.
So definitely, like the one thing that I would encourage anybody to do is be mindful, you know, of what you're saying. Don't judge a book by its cover. Always remember that everybody's walking their own path, and you never know what someone's going through, you know? So like I carry myself with a lot of confidence, but for my first 2 years of college, I was not in the best state of mind. And I was very, you know, like behind closed doors, I was very in a depressed state, you know. A lot of shit was going on and personally, and, you know, I was pretty young at the time. I didn't really know how to handle it. But people only see the outside. People only see the guy that's like walking by himself, and they think, oh, like he thinks he's above everybody else.
Right.
You know, so just be mindful of that. You know, you're gonna either learn that the easy way or the hard way, and I hope you learn it the easy way. But yeah, you gotta keep that in mind.
Bro, you're the man with the fucking plan. I love it. Bro, I'm so grateful for this. I appreciate you. For real.
Yeah.
For real.
Thanks for having me.
Right. Everybody that's listening, make sure you like, subscribe, share. These are gems. These are gems. Leave a comment, all that good stuff. Make sure you're on the watch for my 7 and 7 life reset challenge. It's coming very, very soon. Be on edge of your seat waiting for that. It's going to be impactful. I guarantee it. Shout out my man Ramez. Mans is doing big things, Indian drunk driving, and I bet you a bunch of other impactful things for this world. Ramez, thank you again, bro. And like my grandma said, man, keep going, keep growing. Peace.
Yeah, man.